My name's David Bentham. If you don't know me already, I'm the Director of Sales Development for Cognism. I'm going to do the Cognism plug early so that you don't have to listen to any more Cognism plugs for the rest of this, and say that Cognism are just there in the corner. If we're struggling in Q4 in any capacity and we need a mobile number for one key decision maker, we've probably got it. So go and grab it off us straight after this. All right, walk up to the guys, register for a demo, and we'll sort you out. Today, I wanted to talk about, I suppose, the journey that Cognism's been on from scaling from 1 million, which is about when I joined, to 35 million ARR today. In fact, I think we're at, what, 43? I might be wrong. We're about 43 today on our latest reckoning. I had to send this in about 3 months ago, so 43 today. A lot of that work has all come from the outbound sales development team, which is the team that I manage. In fact, I've heard that when you're doing talks, the first thing you need to do is social proof. I need to show to the audience the fact that there's a reason that you're talking today. So this morning, I took a look at our sales force and took the data from our sales force in terms of how our pipeline has performed since 2019, as far back as I could go. And it looks something like this. So I joined in kind of late 2018, took over the team kind of mid 2019, and you can see my job is to build pipeline for the company. Last month, October 2022, was our record pipeline month with 19 million in pipeline build. So I'm not very good at doing these talks, but I think I'm pretty good at this. So hopefully I can explain a thing or two to help you guys out in terms of building pipeline just like this in the future. Before I start, I'm interested, how many people here have worked for a company or are part of a sales development organization? Can I have a show of hands if you have an SDR team? Okay, cool. All right. Okay, cool. All right. So I want to start off then, because it sounds like some of you, are maybe new to SDRs. We're just talking about what an SDR actually is. Okay, so an SDR is a salesperson who focuses totally on top of funnel activity. That's generating pipeline for the business. Specifically and usually, they are pulling meetings for, and usually passing over to like a closing team to then go and close. The idea of an SDR, is that me? Okay. The idea of an SDR is the question about, do we want specialization or do we want customer journey? Okay, so that's the debate, is as an organization, are we investing in separating our sales funnel out by doing SDRs, AEs, AMs, customer success, which is what we do at Cognism, or do we want one person to manage the whole journey and focus on that customer journey and allowing the customer to retain and stay with the same person throughout? We believe that specialism is key, okay? The other question that you're asking yourself, and the debate between 360 reps and SDRs and specialization, is whether by doing so, you're misaligning the company objectives to the individual reps. So SDRs generally, we'll get onto it, aren't necessarily targeted on revenue, right? But if you've got 360 reps, they're targeted on revenue and they're totally aligned to that customer journey. So there's this big question on, should we do it? Should we have absolute focus, or should we align to the company goals? And that's the debate that everybody has to make. Now, just really quickly. So I want to talk about why I think SDRs are so effective. One of the problems that you may have with 360 sales reps is that their least favorite activity is the top of funnel activity. And to be honest with you, it's probably the most important. They tend to deprioritize that activity because the closing is the cool, it's the glamorous stuff, it's the stuff that's actually making the money every single day. So by creating an SDR function, what you're doing is you're focusing people completely on just that activity, nothing else. So they can't deprioritize it. The other brilliant thing about SDRs is it becomes a training ground for the whole company. Our employees, generally our SDRs, a lot of them have turned into AEs, have turned into closers. But on top of that, Alice has stolen some into the marketing team in the past, which has gone really well. We've had people join customer success. We've had people join product, a range of different roles. all from that SDR function where they're learning to just, learning about the role, the company, the culture, and everything that goes with it. SDRs generally are at the start of their careers and they're hungry, okay? And when you're thinking about top of funnel activity, and this is what I'm going to mention at the bottom, from my experience, hard work always trumps skill, okay? Now, obviously, you can be more skilled at this activity and you can get better and better, but I would take someone that's going to go and make me 1,000 calls a day over anybody that's going to make 10 calls a day, but is the best salesperson you'll ever see. So I want those hungry SDRs, those hungry salespeople start their career doing that top of funnel activity. And that's why we have an SDR team, and that's why it's so effective. So what I've done today is I've broken down our SDR function and how we've designed it into 7 key pillars that I want to walk everybody through. And hopefully, if it, an SDR team is something you're looking at or you're running an SDR team today, then I can give you some key takeaways to help you go from 1 million to 35 million in ARR. So pillar number 1, right at the start, we need to think about hiring. So there are a couple of key rules that we need to start with. First things first, always hire in twos. If you're starting any sales team, if you're right at the beginning, don't hire one, because you've got nothing to compare people against, and you've got no one they need to, SDRs and salespeople are naturally competitive, and you want them competing against each other, bouncing off each other, learning from each other. So this is actually, we had 4 SDRs when I joined, but this is something that our CEO, James, he made the mistake of he kept hiring one SDR, one salesperson. And to this day, whenever we open a new function, he always hires in twos. Today, we're probably hiring about 3-4 people a month into our SDR team of 75. And we refuse to start anybody in one, as a single. And again, it goes back to that competitive nature. It's onboarding them together, it's them learning together, it's them building, that competitive streak and being on that journey together. So always hire at least in twos. The second thing is their qualification. Okay, so their qualifications, their experience barely matters. Today, I think on the stand, maybe, or at least tomorrow, one of the best SDRs in our team is 18 years old, straight out of school. All right, he joined, in fact, a recruitment company for about 3 months. And then I've got none of my SDRs here. No, okay, cool. So I can say that. Don't tell them. All right, so our best SDR is this 18-year-old guy, and he's amazing. Most naturally talented individual I've ever seen. Just has such a sense with people. And then he's got this work ethic to boot because he's got something to prove. He's always trying to prove the fact that, he's the young guy. Most of the people are like 25, 26 in the team, and he is just outperforming them day in, day out. And it truly doesn't matter. What I see time and time again is leaders looking for people with experience. And in my opinion, when it comes to SDRing, if I see someone and they've got 3 years of SDR experience, I don't want to hire them. And the logic on that is the fact that generally, if they're top performing SDRs, they will have progressed through a company to an account executive, account management type function. So I'm actively avoiding people with experience to find those young, hungry, gritty individuals that are going to perform so well at the top of the funnel. We've also learned, so the next thing, or the key things I'm looking at, are drive, like I mentioned, and optimism. SDRs get relentlessly beaten down, right? It's no after no after no after no. And the best SDRs are just incredibly optimistic individuals. Okay, they go on to every call thinking it's going to be the one that's going to take them, that's going to get them that meeting, that's going to get them to quota. And you need that unrivaled optimism. If any of you are in a really small startup, I think optimism across all the employees is also incredibly important, right? There's going to be loads of bumps in the road when you first start something out, and you need a team that are optimistic and just going to go on that journey and take those bumps with you, especially right now in a recession. And then finally, I'm looking for people that do want to focus on sales. I know I said that SDRing is a breeding ground for the rest of the company. And sure, if I've got salespeople that come into my organization, they spend a year in it and it's not for them and it happens, they can move on. They can take those learnings, those skills, and they can move on. However, when I'm first hiring, I want people with that complete sales focus, right? I want those people that are just see the potential of the role, how much money they can make, everything that, all of the positives that go with sales, and they want to be, and that's what they want to be. The next thing I want to talk about is comp plan designs. Everybody in the world, every successful employee is judged on things. Now, the brilliant thing about salespeople is it's so easy to tie them to a clear metric. In the world of SDRing, there's a bunch of different comp plans that people run, and there's loads and loads of opinions, too many opinions. So these are the key ones that you generally see. I have seen meetings booked, which I think is bizarre, by the way. We'll get onto that. Meetings held, SQLs, SQOs, SA, and sales, which is sales qualified leads, sales qualified opportunities, sales accepted leads, and then revenue source. Those generally, or somewhere like a hybrid of some of them, that's generally where people are. Meetings booked is bizarre to me because so often people book meetings and they never turn up, all right? So I don't get that at all. It's honestly the most bizarre. If you're doing that today, I don't know what you're doing, okay? So just stop doing that. Meetings booked doesn't make any sense. So I'm ruling that one out for everybody. Meetings held makes a lot of sense, right? Meetings held is just about getting people to turn up and be in conversation. It's all about quantity. And where meetings held is really effective is when you've got a very new company and you don't really know what your story is at this stage. That's where Cognism started in 2018 when I joined the company. We were just on meetings attended. We asked every SDR to bring us in 20 meetings a month. That's all they had to do. It doesn't matter what the company, as long as someone, there needs to be like a decision maker to a certain extent, but as long as someone that was willing to listen would come and listen to us, we did it. And the logic on that was saying, okay, we might have some meetings that aren't worth anything, but let's just keep having conversations with our customers, with our potential customers, so that we can keep learning from the ones that our product isn't a fit for at this stage. As we developed, about a year later, so in about 2019, we moved to a very, very common model for SDR teams, which is SQOs, right? So we call them sales qualified leads. What SQOs are is it's meetings, but usually with a quality metric that goes with it. So our quality metric was the very commonly used BANT, so budget, authority, need, and time. So a meeting would happen, and then the AE would decide, is this a qualified opportunity for our business or not, based on those BANT criteria. It worked a little bit, but one of the problems with that system is that it does become quite subjective. The AE is making the decision on whether that's actually going to count towards that quota, and that can create some tension, right? Now, culturally, if you've got the right organization, it can work really well. If you've got an organization where there's a lot of trust between the AEs and the SDRs, and they're seeing the bigger picture, that can work. But you really need to be careful on subjectivity. And if you're going to run that kind of system, my recommendation is to try and make the criteria as objective as physically possible. Finally, revenue sourced. Now, revenue sourced is beautiful because it completely aligns. Oops, excuse me, spat a bit out. All right, chewing gum is a bad idea, so don't laugh. So, revenue source is the perfect alignment for the business. SDRs are focused totally on revenue. That's what the company goal is. That's what the AE goal is. Everyone's happy. The man's got a tissue. What a guy. However, the problem with revenue sourced is that often the SDRs feel so disattached from the outcome that there's no actual value for, they don't see the same value, right? They're not as driven to get it because they're so far away from it. So what we do today, I mentioned we went from meetings held to SQOs, and today we've gone from a hybrid of meetings held, we've gone back to meetings held, and then we've added 25% of it is just revenue sourced. And the reason that we made that switch is I felt comfortable that our SDRs really believed, they knew what a good meeting looks like. So if you're at the maturity level as an organization where okay, if I tell my team to go and get this one person in, there's a very high chance it converts, that's the best place for it. That's the right time for you to maybe look at revenue source. Now, there's no right or wrong model here, but those are the ones that people are talking about, except meetings booked. Meetings booked is a bad model, all right? But everything else, you really need to think about the maturity of your organization as to when you're going to pull the different levers. And what I find, again, based on that my survey of like whether people have SDR teams, I'm assuming that you're here because you're interested in building an SDR team. Often what I see with new individuals that are new is they go straight with what the outreach is and the high spots and the big SDR teams are doing, which is generally the stuff down here. Where at the start, the most effective one generally is just getting meetings into the funnel, creating those conversations. All right, so those are the different comp plans that you want to think about. Okay, next pillar is talk track. Now, talk track's obviously very, very important, right? It's your go-to-market strategy. The first thing I'd say with respect completely to building pipeline is the first thing you need to do is keep it simple. When we're training our SDRs, we get them on the phone after 3 days. And all we need to do is teach them the value that we're going to bring to our prospects, not actually how they're going to, anything really about the product. We give them a bit of an overview on the product, but we relentlessly train on what our personas' challenges and goals are, and therefore what value we can bring to those personas. What I see too often is that training for SDR teams involves the product team coming in and doing this crazy, 1 week, 2 week exercise with them, going through every single little nuance that they're going to forget. They're only going to remember 10% of it. They're going to move on so quickly. So keep it really simple. What is the key value that you bring to the prospects that you're trying to speak to? The other thing that I see a lot, or the second rule that's so important, is don't talk about money. All right, now hopefully nobody's doing this, but please don't ask your SDRs to talk about budget. It's totally ridiculous, right? If you're keeping the talk track simple, then, in that initial call, then you're not revealing the full value of your product until you actually get into that next meeting. So make sure you're not talking about, I don't know what the final thing is. I didn't write that. All right, so we'll ignore that. But those are the two keys. Main thing is, let's keep it simple. Okay, pillar number 4, and this is my big one, training. Always be training, not always be closing anymore. In the SDR world, it's always be training. If you're hiring the right individuals, they're going to be the sort of individuals that we spoke about it earlier. They want to progress their career, they want to develop. They're at the start of their careers, and they're going to be, they're going to be hungry for that, for training. And so, training for you doesn't just become a tool to help develop your individuals, but it's also a motivation tactic. Often, we'll do training sessions. So we run, I suppose, for context, we're running about 3 hours of training a week, right? We do a group call review with every single member of the team, or each individual manager runs a group call review. They're running like a stand-up classroom type session, and then they're running some role play sessions, right? Those are the mandatory 3 hours every single week that we're doing with each member of the team. Sometimes we do these training sessions and we'll explore like a LinkedIn post. So we'll see an SDR influencer, they'll throw up the fact that they're using, I don't know, like WhatsApp, right? They're starting to use WhatsApp and experiencing the results. Now, we'll not necessarily truly believe that it's going to work, but we'll sit down and we'll train the team on it, on what we think is going to be the best. Because that's the sort of thing that's just going to really get them going into that week, right? And we often hear the feedback that actually whatever we've trained them on that week, that's then their focus for the coming week. And they want to really double down on that bit. So it's going to be great motivation. It's going to be role engagement, right? If they're keen to learn, then you've got to give them that teaching. And then ultimately it's going to help retain them. How many people do you know that have said, you know what, the company didn't pay the most, they didn't give the best incentives, but I thought the training was fantastic. And sometimes, especially for people at the start of their careers, they're recognizing that it's not all about the money. A lot of the time it's about the training. The final thing I'd say on training is whenever I'm speaking to my SDR managers, they're always worried about the fact that there's not so many topics. Like, how many times can you train someone to just pick up the phone and keep dialing? And I say, let's not be afraid to keep training. The start of my career was I ran a door-to-door team, 80-person door-to-door sales team. And every single day, we had 5 training sessions total, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We only had 5. And we ran them every single day, no matter what. And everybody had to come every single day. And honestly, the feedback was always, you know what, like, I forgot that from last week. I forgot that from last week over and over again, because you're trying to make them into complete perfectionists. So don't be afraid to just recover some of the material that you've done already. Overall, I just think training is just something that's so, it's always put to the back page. We need to be focusing on training our reps. Okay, Right, this is the big controversial one. This is my controversial moment. I hate work from home. I hate it. I hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. Okay. Structure for me, for salespeople, and especially SDRs, is super, super important, right? Consistency of input, I always say consistency of input produces consistency of output. So how do I, as a leader, create consistency of input? Well, one thing that I can do is I can create the right structure for my team. What that means is all of my team have a daily plan. They just religiously, we time block every single part of their day, and they're religiously just going through those time blocks. They know the target for each time blocks, and they're rolling. So you can see some examples here, but we have, for example, really common power hours. So we have 2 power hours a day, one at 10:30, one at 2:30. They run for an hour, and the aim is they need to make a minimum of 30 calls during those power hours. What I'm doing is I'm removing some of the micro decisions they have to make. And again, I'm just creating that consistency. And especially for new individuals, that's really important. Now I'm going to go back to this work from home stuff, all right? Now, controversially, I don't believe in work from home at all for SDRs, for SDR teams specifically. Okay, generally, going back to people start their careers, they want to, if I'm hiring the right people, they want to learn. I find that we're all in on office, right? And I find that the people that choose us based on the fact that we're all in on office are the sort of individuals that are really committed to the role. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for complete commitment. Generally, these people don't have kids or outside commitments that are making them want to work from home as well. So I'm a big in-office advocate. But if you do want to run a hybrid model, if you do want to work from home, I get it, it's fine, right? It's the world that we're moving towards. However, you've really got to think about how you're managing the structure of your team and the structure of the day. How do you ensure they're going through that structure religiously every single day in that scenario? And that's a challenge that you guys face. The way that I fix it is I get everybody in office, right? And I know exactly where they are at any given time, which is super important. Okay, final thing. Oh no, sorry, 2 more. Culture. So pillar 6 is culture. Before you build an SDR team, you want to think about what culture you want in that team. For us, it's all about making sure that each individual in the team is bringing up every other individual in the team, right? Making them better. That's my one key thing, is I want everybody to be better because of each individual. And so what we've done to build that culture is we've created mentor-mentee schemes. So within the SDR team alone, if you've been in the role for say about 6 months, you'll then pair up with someone in a more junior role as a mentor. Now, you might be thinking that's a little bit early, someone 6 months into their career, but genuinely the value that it brings, just having another peer to bounce ideas off is incredible. And it helps push that culture that we're trying to create. The second thing we've done, we stole this from the England rugby team that won the World Cup in 2003, is we created a thing called teamship rules, which is basically where our whole team sits down together about every quarter and they create rules for themselves, none of the managers involved. So they go and sit down, they create 10 rules for themselves that they want to hold each other accountable for. All right, so again, building, so they're understanding that the way that they act is they're going to be held accountable by their own team. And the final way that we're driving this home is we're tying it all to promotions, right? Whatever culture you want to create, we out and out tie it to promotions. If you're the sort of individual that's bringing people down, you're going to get marked down, we're not going to promote you. But if we're bringing it up, if you're bringing people up and we see that, you're performing well as a mentor, you're adhering to our teamship or to the teamship rules that are set by the team, you're contributing to others, you're bringing new ideas to the table, we're going to promote you. And we're completely transparent on that through the whole team to help drive that culture. Final pillar that you want to think about is progression. The best SDRs are going to want to be promoted, right? They're going to want, and if they don't end up getting promoted with you guys, they're going to find someone else to go with. So you've got to build really clear progression paths. Let's remember, again, SDRs are generally people that start their careers. They're so used to the educational system. They come out of the education system, they're so used to having the next step and the next step and the next step. So we need to facilitate that within their career. One thing that we've done is we've created micro progressions. So each SDR SDRs come in and we have a commercial SDR, then an enterprise SDR, and the senior enterprise SDR. And we've created a clear set of criteria in order that they can move into each and every single role that they do. And then there's also a clear set of criteria for getting to that A's or customer success or account management roles that they want. But create those micro progressions. A lot of companies aren't doing it. One of them, so the move from enterprise to senior enterprise, is all you need to do is hit your quota or over exceed your quota for 4 months straight, right? And then we give them a little pay bump. We increase their targets, so actually they don't really, it nets off. Don't tell them that. None of them are here, all right? But it's just another target to keep them motivated and keep them in the role for longer. The final thing that I want to talk about is the other day I went to a talk, I won't name who, but I went to a talk and it was by a very, very famous CEO in the SaaS space. And he actually spoke about the fact that people are moving away from SDRs. And right now people need to move away from SDRs, which was really interesting because then I went and spoke to his director of sales development, who was running this massive SDR team for him, who was hearing the opposite. So I don't know where he's at, but I won't name names. SDRs today in recession are going to be more important than ever, in my opinion. As win rate is dropping, John, who is the head of the AEs and sat at the back, I'm sure he wants his AEs, because as the job gets harder to close people, he wants his AEs more focused on closing than ever before and more specialist than ever before. So while they're spending more time doing that, you need SDRs where it's harder to generate pipeline as well, also being more and more specialized. The second reason why it's so important right now is that what you're going to be used to doing in recession, there's going to be more and more stakeholders, more and more individuals, decision makers as part of the panel that make a decision on your product or service. And so multi-threading is going to be more important than ever. And what we do is we're incentivizing our SDRs from moment one to do that multi-threading activity, to find new decision makers, to pull in new, more key stakeholders along with the AEs. And I've already said the last one, so I've covered that. All right. So I believe SDRs are super important. I'm obviously very biased on this, but hopefully that's run through some of the key reasons why, firstly, you guys should be investing in your SDRs, and secondly, how you should all be doing it. So thank you.